Yeah. Hello and welcome to the Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm very, very pleased to have Lionel back on because of the news that happened over the weekend with President Trump ordering the end of critical race theory for government officials. This is a huge victory for common sense. Um, uh, and I have to wonder, Lionel, did he do this because he watched Tucker Carlson the week before? Because Tucker Carlson's been when pushing that, and yesterday he also had an extensive segment on it. Irrespective of the reason why Trump came to that conclusion, I'm very happy about it. When I was in academia in the United States in the 1990s, that's what I saw, and it's just on steroids now. It's seeped into the culture and now into government here. This is a very important decision. I don't think people understand the magnitude of it.
No.
Go ahead.
Oh, well, first, by the by, however important this is, you and I share a fondness for Tucker because out of all of the platforms
Yeah.
here, Fox, Newsmax, which is a bit of a fledgling, and also OAN, which I'm very, very, One American News Network, very, very complimentary of them. Tucker's first part is perhaps not only spot on, but brilliantly executed. Though sometimes I think his fixation on CNN and Chris Cuomo, paging Dr. Freud.
He used to work there. He used to work there. So, okay.
Well, yeah, but anyway. But like I said, paging Dr. Freud. Aside from that, for those who don't know, critical race theory is basically, it's so brilliant. I wish I would have thought about it. It's basically taking people who are white, whatever that means, and being indoctrinated into accepting the fact that they are to feel guilty about something, to address, I'm trying to be fair, to address their own particular innate and inherent biases, which may be resulting in an inability to appreciate the black experience or whatever it is, and that we start with the premise that you, by virtue of your background framework, you are contaminated. You have to be almost like we're going to take you to Paris Island and the Marines. We're going to take you to boot camp. We're going to break you down and build you back up again, with the understanding that you are to constantly walk around with the yoke and the sting of blame for something that I don't understand.
Well, this whole critical race theory assumes that all white people, whatever that is, are all the same. That we all have the same experience and all have the same outlook. I thought that there was a man once, Martin Luther King, that said that was an inherently racist way to look at the black community as being one identity, one experience. And we were taught that that was wrong. And I agree with it, and I have lived by it my entire life. Now, it seems like it's being flipped upside down. I mean, also this is critical Marxist theory too. Is that this is a cult of victimization. So you bring critical race theory and victimization together, and this is what you get.
I'm so glad you brought that up, and please, I don't mean to hijack your show, which I'm not, of course, but I want you to, because you and I always talk about the vernacular and the lexicon of disinformation or data information, which is an old joke. There are people, Peter, who in this country, when they don't know what to call someone, when they see people in the street, they say, you're a Marxist. Now, I happen to know a couple of Marxians, and I know a socialist, and I know a communist, and they rail against this. They say, excuse me.
Yes.
This is not about, I have not heard them talk about planned economies. They don't talk about class. By the way, one of these said individuals liked Donald Trump because for the first time somebody was talking about the working man, the working class. This is how. So in America, in fact, I don't know, in my age, we had this thing called Problems in American Democracy. And I remember in high school having to learn capitalism, socialism, Marxism, communism, the ideal. We're not there yet. Capital, Maoism, Lenin, whatever. And I remember thinking this was an economic theory. Now, granted, just give me one more second. When people talk about the great bastions of capitalism, I'm thinking like Haiti. You know, and because some dime store revolutionary says, "Oh, by the way, Black Lives Matter, BLM. We are basically a I'm a follower of a Marxist ideology. I'm thinking, no, you're not. You know what this reminds me of? Sometimes when people court each other, young men, and they fancy a woman and they say, "Oh my gosh, she likes jazz. Quick, quick, quick." Well, I've always loved Ornette Coleman and Charlie Parker. I'm a bit of a Duke Ellington, and he's trying to remember every name just so I can pretend that there's some legitimacy to my foundation of music because I'm trying to convince you of my legitimacy. Well, that's what they're doing. This is an anarchic, nihilistic, if you want this, just basically a slumgullion, a hodgepodge of Pinkerton, brutal brown shirt, shock troops, here for $25 a box lunch and the chance to break some stuff up. And that Black Lives Matter has merged and coalesced with Antifa.
Yep. Yep.
Which, by the way, if somebody, let me ask you this, you being the mathematical mind that you are, if I am anti-Antifa, am I fa? Am I a fascist? I don't mean to belittle the point, but these words mean something. And I think if I were to use the word communist to you, I think that you say, whoa, 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 wait a minute, hold it. That's like lowercase Republican, lowercase Catholic, capital C. These words matter. So in this, and look, you know it and I know it. Amazon, whoever, the Gap, Levi Strauss company, they're saying, look, how much do we, just leave me alone. This is the Al Sharpton School. Here's $50 million. Just go away.
What it is a grift. This is a huge grift, is what it is. Okay. I mean, I remember I was thinking about I was coming back from the city and knowing that we were going to talk today, and there was this Sylvester Stallone film, like in the 1970s, early 80s, about unions, and it showed the corruptness of unions. And remember, he's a working class guy, and he worked his way up, and then he finds out that his buddy's wife, who's in the management of the union, has a company in which every single local has to buy a model truck for $50. And so it's a grift, okay? You're making everybody pay. It's a form of corruption here. And this is what this is. This is a form of corruption because it doesn't settle any problems. It divides people even more. It inverts racism. And I don't even know what a microaggression is, okay? When I was growing up, I was told, if you don't like it, learn and suck it up. And stand up and have a spine.
Well, that's because you're a fascist, and we all know that. Their words, microaggression. Let me also give you one, trigger warnings. Let me show, for members, of course, of our international community, let me also say that I apologize for this, and I don't in any way subscribe to it. But Peter, let's assume that I'm describing to you in my history class slavery in the American colonies, and you, as a young person, found that to be problematic. You found that to be disquieting.
Good.
It can be it could be a trigger. I have to warn you. It's almost like spoiler alert. But now listen, we're going to talk about the Holocaust. We're going to talk about genocide. We're going to talk about, the Tuskegee. Now, I don't know about you, but good history, sanitized, anodyne history is boring. So there's also something called there's a trigger word. Trigger words are part of microaggression. These are the words that are used in academia. Microaggression is one thing. If I were to ask you things like, Lavelle, where are you from? That is a microaggression because I have, through some subterranean thought convection, I've given you the idea. Anyway, so that's it's good because it always starts in academia. Let me give you an example of something else. And please forgive me by being so discursive and desultory, but that's the way I am. My wife and I were driving through a very, very posh area of New Jersey. Very, very nice. And on the front lawns of these manicured, I mean, really, $1 million with kids and nannies, Black Lives Matter. They have these signs, Black Lives Matter. Then there's some gratuitous statement about something anti-Trump, or another sign that says science matters, intimating that Trump, the Republicans, don't care about science because That's why we have COVID or something like that. Now, imagine this, Peter. We're knocking on the door. I say, hello, my name is Peter Lavelle. I'm with Black Lives Matter. You have this sign on your front lawn. Oh, yes. We're wanting to know, we're going to be having a march through your neighborhood next week. And we want to know, could we perhaps use your house for restroom and perhaps refreshments for our Black Lives Matter members? They say, whoa, 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 wait. What are you talking about? That sign is my signal to leave me alone. That's my virtue signaling to the rest of my friends at the country club, but also maybe in the event of some kind of a contretemps, some kind of a leave us alone. And as you will find out in the case of Ted Wheeler, the mayor of Portland, and others, Black Lives Matter. They don't care who you are. So if you're not in the United States right now, consider yourself lucky, because you don't have to deal with this cosmic intellectual insanity. It's
well, I mean, but this has been tried before. This is intellectually and politically, it's a dead end. I mean, what is this? The re-education classes a la Mao? Because that's exactly what it is. You know, confess your sins. Confess your sins. And the thing is that if you know your analogy here, having a sign in front of your house here. I mean, that's cowardice. That's what that is, okay? Because white suburbia, or excuse me, suburbia feels good about itself, okay? And
right.
And that they write a check or they put something on their website. Amazon gives money, but how does that change with the so-called systemic racism, which is an illusion, is a myth, okay? And to counter it, this critical race theory. I mean, this is an illusion parlaying with another illusion. What I am sick and tired of is this culture politics, and you just touched on it just for a second there. Well, what about working people? I wonder what they think of all of this here, okay? Because they don't care, okay? And you know what? Working people are white, brown, yellow, and all other colors, okay? Working people. And this doesn't help them. It's just a virtue signaling and genuflecting from people that are already safe in this economy, okay?
Yeah, right. Just another bit of language, because you and I think share the same love of this. And you can always tell what a country or culture thinks by how they refer to themselves. The word, many people, we went through, in my lifetime, we went through the hyphenization period. A lot of us would say, I'm Italian. You say, you've never been to Italy, you can't speak Italian. Yeah, but I'm Italian. Okay, fine. Then we became, I'm Italian American. Well, let me tell you the progression of blackness, negritude. I use that term. But they said, what? I said, well, I think that's what you call it, black, negra. Anyway, that doesn't matter. Because remember, in 1993, don't quote me, please look this up. Spoiler alert, trigger alert, I'm going to use a word. There was an executive of Washington, D.C. I get the exact quote. He referred to budgetary constraints as being too miserly, and he refers to niggardly, Niggardly. I
remember.
They fired him.
I remember.
They fired him. And they said, no, excuse me. You made a mistake. That word is okay. And they said, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. No, it made me feel. So anyway, in this growing up, there was a time in this country we called a lot of people colored. Colored was the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. Colored was the word. Later on, it went Negro. Negro was more of a Margaret Mead. It sounded better. Martin Luther King referred to it. Black, and I might be getting the progression. Black, Afro-American, the Afro hairstyle, African American was later on. Black. James Brown saying, I'm black and I'm proud. They took the word black. It's black. African American, people of color. And I remember one time, this is very, very true. When African American came around, maybe I'd say in the 80s, that I remember, somebody said, oh, you're African American. Yes. What country? And people would say, invariably, black and white, Africa. No, it's a continent. Chad, South America, Libya, Egypt.
We're almost out of time, but I've met Africans.
No, we are out of time.
And I asked them what country they come from, and they say Africa. Thank you very much for joining us here on the Gaggle. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe.